Good evening from London, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for pro wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. Tonight's edition of SmackDown is seemingly Tag Team Appreciation Night, with the show scheduled to feature several tag team matches and segments. Joining me first, the head of reviewing, Coby Galenzoski. How are you today, Coby?
I'm doing pretty good. I had to get called on to last night's show, and it was definitely a 60-minute dash because we had to talk about CM Punk and Dynamite, and then we also had we also shared our thoughts and kind of our own personal tribute to Billy Graham. If you want to check that out, it it it's something that it's like, well, I mean, as much as I had youth, I still had something to say, and I found something on Cage Match. But
Yeah.
it was great to be a part of it. Help out the boy Clark.
Yesterday's show was great. If you haven't checked that out, make sure you do after this show. And it was, like you said, a jam-packed show. But also joining us today, for the first time ever, brand new on the show, Shad Huda. How are you today, Shad?
Bang bang. What's going on, guys? Shad Huda. I'm part of the team now. I'm grateful for you guys allowing me to talk wrestling with you. Um, yeah, man. I'm excited for this. Let's talk SmackDown.
Absolutely. We got a lot to get into today. And let's first of all talk about not something which isn't exactly SmackDown related, but related to something which is currently going around the news cycle. And that is that Sami Zayn has revealed that he thought that he was going to be main eventing WrestleMania. He presumed he was going to be main eventing WrestleMania with Roman Reigns all the way until after the Royal Rumble. From November to February, he thought that he was going to be main eventing WrestleMania against Roman Reigns. It was what he thought should have been the case. And this has created a big argument in the internet wrestling community. You know, like, why should it maybe have been Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns, or was Cody versus Roman Reigns the right choice? At the time, I think everybody thought, well, they're going to do Cody Roman as Cody's the right one to take the title off Reigns. However, of course, we saw Cody lost. And there are a lot of people who think that Cody will win it at WrestleMania 40 now, and they're going to do the entire Rocky storyline going into Philadelphia. But it's an interesting one. It truly is. Should he have perhaps won the title? Shad, I'll go to you first. What do you think?
Um, I I don't think he should have won the title at Mania. I mean, if you were gonna put the title on him, yeah, it definitely should have been at the event in Montreal with the crowd and moment, with all of that. But I mean, knowing that that event happened and he lost and whatnot, going through the idea of him going into Mania, I'm not sure if you would have took away the main event from what was it, Backlash, not Backlash, I forgot which one it was, but for the Elimination Chamber, if you would have took that match away and given him his moment in Mania and kept building it upon that, sure, it could have worked, but I mean, I think they did it pretty well enough. I think they did a good enough job for not allowing him to, losing to Roman at that event in Montreal
Yeah.
and going through Cody and whatnot. Now, do I think Roman should have won versus Cody? I still don't think he should have, just because I don't really know what's going on with Roman. I feel like we're in I think he's like stuck in quicksand again. Like, I feel like we're doing a whole, recycled feud with Sammy and KO. And, with Sammy, I just don't know how they would have booked him if he would have been champion, because it's the same thing with KO and Sammy right now. Like, we're seeing a lot of, until maybe besides last Monday, a lot of just like, they don't even feel like they know what they're doing. And I feel like that could have got worn out within the main event picture of him as champ. So, in my personal opinion, and I'm a big Sami Zayn guy, I got the honorary Who sweater on
Nice.
right now. I wouldn't have not main evented him at WrestleMania. I would have, if I was going to give him the title, I would have let him have his moment at Montreal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're going to get in later on in the show about the Roman Reigns Solo Sikoa versus Owens and Zayn stuff, and whether or not it's kind of at the point where maybe Owens and Zayn should be done with the bloodline by now. We'll get into that a bit later on. But yeah, I mean, here's my thing with it. The fact that obviously Elimination Chamber was in Canada, that meant that the crowd were, of course, fully into Sami Zayn and were fully invested in the storyline. And his reaction was just insane. You probably wouldn't have had a bigger reaction at Mania if they did do it then. However, at the same time, this storyline had been built, from, well, literally just after the last Mania. For the entire year, they built it up. Whereas with Cody Rhodes, I mean, in fairness, he was injured for most of the year, but there wasn't that much time to build up the storyline. And we've heard Clark going rants about it and stuff quite a few times on the show. But they didn't finish the story. Well, they didn't really explain the story, and that was the issue. There wasn't enough time to really develop the WrestleMania main event, partly because Roman Reigns wasn't there that much, in fairness, to Cody Rhodes. But yeah, what about you, Coby? Do you think perhaps they should have just saved the Sami Zayn stuff for WrestleMania and then Cody at WrestleMania 40? What do you think?
I think the biggest thing that you can tell is, like you said, Elimination Chamber was in Montreal. And the biggest thing is if that's not in Montreal, the next biggest crowd you can do is WrestleMania. The people at WrestleMania are those hardcore fans. The hardcore fans as well as the casuals who want to be there. At the end of the day, Sami Zayn had the enormous moment in Montreal, and I don't know if he would have got that at WrestleMania. I do 100% agree with the statement that it would have 100% made sense for that to be the main WrestleMania main event. But then it's a matter of, well, where does the Royal Rumble go? Unless Sami Zayn did win the Rumble, it didn't. There's a lot of things that, if you're thinking of this as a puzzle, a lot of puzzles have to be changed, rotated, stuff like that. At the end of the day, I kind of do disagree. I think the match with Cody and Roman was built great. I think it was built enough to the point where it didn't need to. It doesn't need another year of build, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you can get the people as hot as they were for Cody this year. I don't know if you can. It's going to be tough because you like we said, you can't point him in the direction of the World Heavyweight title. He's on that brand with the World Heavyweight title. Yeah. So it's going to be tough unless you keep bringing out part-timers. Hey, Brock. Hey, Edge. Oh, wait, no. Edge got drafted, which is another one. It's like, why? A lot of it doesn't add up. I don't know where Cody goes. I'm not going to be interested in another Cody and Balor feud because they've been running that at live events. But it's like, well, we already saw that match, I want to say 3 times this year.
Yeah.
There's not enough unless you're really going to give Damian that push. There's not enough in this position.
No, I mean, maybe they will do Balor. Maybe, talking about part-timers, maybe they bring back Goldberg and do Goldberg versus Cody and do the WCW.
Man.
God. I mean, why can I see them doing that?
Let's run that at Crown Jewel, man.
They need to figure it out. I mean, I still think, to be honest with you, I think potentially the play might be to have Cody win Money in the Bank and then to just say that he's going to cash in at SummerSlam. So they announce it ahead of time and do, probably build up Cody and Roman for that. And then after that, then you can just focus on the Usos versus Roman feud. I think that's a possibility.
I do want to say that thing. If you're... We just saw the Money in the Bank got wasted. Money in the Bank with Austin Theory, as much as it was a good idea because you want to push new stars, it was such a thing that was holding Theory back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's the reality. And I think as much as it was a stupid decision for him to cash in on the U.S. title and lose, it still kind of gave Theory that reset.
Right.
But we're in the position where it's Triple H's first Money in the Bank.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way you can go, we're going to burn it and have Cody Rhodes cash in or announce his cash in.
I don't think that's a bad thing, announcing your cash in.
I think that's a burning. I think that's a burning.
Still use it as a loophole.
It works because he's an honorable. It creates honor for it. He's like, I'm an honorable man. I want that rematch. I'm cashing it in SummerSlam. You can do that. So I don't hate the idea. It's just what I
It's
don't
not
know.
ideal for the Money in the Bank. I don't think it is.
Mm.
Money in the Bank goes to a heel. It's a gimmick that needs to be used for more than a month, and that's the whole issue I've had with the women's Money in the Bank. Because
man.
how many, like, I think we've had what, 3 cash-ins that are
We had
that
Big
fast.
E had he was a
had it
baby
for-
face that had it, right?
Yeah, he was the last
That
baby.
worked.
Well, not the last baby face, but he had it for like 2 months.
The moment worked, but his title reign was not that great.
Oh yeah, no, it truly
Right.
And
was not.
he got thrown into the Brock Lesnar Shark Tank. That's probably why. But I mean,
Yeah.
but the moment was
Oh.
awesome. The moment was awesome for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember Dean Ambrose winning it. That was one of my favorite cash-ins, to be honest with you, and that was a face. But
the
let's move
WWE
on.
trivia
Oh.
which pay-per-view did all of the Shield members hold the world title? Money in the Bank.
Oh yeah, that was a banger of a pay-per-view. But anyway, let's move on now to tonight's SmackDown, and let's move on to LA Knight teaming up with Rick Boogs tonight to take on the Street Profits. And I mean, the big question with this one is, do we think this LA Knight Rick Boogs alliance is temporary, or do you think this is a real tag team which they are building up now? Perhaps even LA Knight being Rick Boogs' manager. I don't know. What do you think, Shad?
Okay. So the match itself, I think, is going to have a lot of entertainment value. LA Knight is one of the most money talkers in WWE right now. Montez Ford oozes swag. I got my red cup too. Shout outs to the Street Profits. And I mean, Rick Boogs is a funny dude. I mean, he's a funny character and whatnot. And I mean, Street Profits are entertaining. I think it's gonna be an entertaining match. I like the performers in it. In regards to your question, I really hope this is just something temporary. I feel like you have such a strong base with LA Knight where he can really be a great tweener. He could be a monster heel. He could be a very over babyface. He oozes charisma. He's great on the mic. He's very solid in the ring. He's got the crowd over and whatnot. You know, you got to push him as an individual star, like whether it be for a mid-card title, whether you make him a babyface. And I believe Theory's on SmackDown now, right? You can create a program where him and Theory feud, where he can eventually be the U.S. champ. Or like if you even put him in against matches as a heel superstar versus pretty, high mid-card baby faces and stuff like that, like they have been doing. And I mean, allow him to get some wins, man. Let the guy really become a star that he really is. In regards to a tag team with Boogs, y'all know that's not entertaining. That's not something that a lot of people are really going to be into. I like Rick Boogs. I think he's funny, but he's just humor. I mean, he's got the strength and all that, but people don't take him serious. And the tag between them, it's going to be entertaining. It'll have its ha-ha moments, but it leads to nothing really. And I feel like somebody as talented as LA Knight, he should be pushed as a solo star, like on either the higher mid-card part of the platform. Like I want to see him and Austin Theory feud and him get the U.S. title off of Theory. That's me personally. Get a guy gold. I'm high on LA Knight. I was a big Eli Drake fan back in the TNA Impact days, but that's my stance on it. But I will enjoy the tag team match because Street Profits are one of the best tag teams. Montez Ford is a superstar. LA Knight is a superstar. I love the ingredients in this match, but the long-term tag team of Boogs and LA Knight, I'm not here for it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do hear you there. And I mean, I would like to see LA Knight going for a singles title, the United States one. It would make a lot of sense, and I think that would be fun. I personally wouldn't push him any further than that because I think because of his age, I don't think he can become a main event star at this point. I know, Coby, that's going to make you unhappy. I know, Coby, but I really don't. But let's go to the comments quickly. We got the APX experience saying shout out Shardy, and we got Melissa saying hey Melissa, and we got Clark saying appreciate the day off, my friends. Monster shout out Shardy. See you guys soon. Boogs and Knight are way too good on their own to be a tag team. Great point there. I've got Wasif in the comments as well saying, let's go, Shad, man. Shad, you're a popular guy in the comments today.
Y'all hired a superstar, man. Y'all hired a superstar. What can I say? But salute to my buddies, man. Those are two of my best friends in the world, man. Shout outs to you guys. I appreciate the love and support.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you guys for watching the show. We hope you are enjoying it. But let's now move on to the next segment, which is going to be the first SmackDown's first edition of the Grayson Waller effect. And the guest on it is going to be AJ Styles. And I said this a couple of weeks back, but well, not a couple of weeks back, last week, I said that I don't think the entire AJ Styles Seth Rollins situation needs to be a feud between them. They're on different brands. I'm not a fan of brand crossover. Keep them separate, but you can just tell a story about why they both individually want the title. They did it with Seth Rollins this week on Raw. They did a fantastic interview segment with Corey Graves, and this week now on SmackDown they're going to be having AJ Styles on the Grayson Waller effect, and this is going to be the first time Grayson Waller's properly having full-on segment on the main roster. So it's going to be exciting to see how it goes. But Coby, I know you've watched a lot of Grayson Waller down in NXT. So what are your thoughts heading into this segment?
I mean, the one question I had from last match is, why is Rick Boogs away from Shinsuke? That was money, but at the end of the day, I digress. So the Grayson Waller effect with AJ Styles, this definitely plays off of the fact that this was almost one of the, I don't want to say the top feuds, but this was one of those main roster appearances in NXT that was shocking. We had AJ Styles versus Grayson Waller in, I want to say, month 4 or 5 of the 2.0 rebrand of all the colors. It was a really good match, and I'm expecting that to happen. Yes, we know Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia, so they are taping next week's SmackDown tonight. I do think we get that match set up for next week. Does it suck that Grayson Waller would lose to AJ Styles right after? Yes. But AJ getting a victory is always good because he's coming into the title match. I think the one thing that we can admit is it's going to be interesting. Like, I want to see how good Grayson Waller can work with this type of crowd. It's obviously different because he's working with thousands, not hundreds, a couple hundred, like he would be in the PC. But I agree with the statement of what Grayson Waller effect is and how they played it, as they always do it, as like there's always going to be a viral moment. And I actually am interested to see what they kind of do for it this time around on a SmackDown.
Yeah, it is. It's during the Grayson Waller's days in NXT, it really was an entertaining talk show, if you want to call it that. It felt very different to a lot of the similar Miz TV-esque ones. So now he's bringing that to the main roster. I'm excited. I do believe Waller could be a top guy in WWE if he's booked right. I mean, obviously we spoke about it on the podcast the other day, and I can't remember exactly who it was who said it, but they basically said that he could be this generation's version, I guess, of The Miz. Yes, you don't want to compare them exactly or whatever, but he could be that role, a plug and play, great performer who you can give him anybody, a celebrity. Perhaps you can see Grayson Waller versus Logan Paul next year at WrestleMania. I mean, I doubt that.
Money.
Heel versus heel.
I love that idea.
Money. Yeah, that'd be, yeah.
I mean, as a tag team, it would work too.
No,
they both want that viral moment.
Yes, that you might have actually just bucked it there, Coby. You might be bang on right. Grayson Waller and Logan Paul teaming up against. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe Rey Mysterio and Bad Bunny. You have a celebrity versus celebrity tag match next year at WrestleMania. That wouldn't surprise me. But let's move on now to a tag team who, a tag team which one of the competitors I wrote an article about today, and that is Ridge Holland and Butch will be taking on Pretty Deadly tonight on SmackDown. And I wrote an article earlier today on WrestlingRepublic.com. If you haven't seen it yet, then please go check it out. Titled, Honestly, WWE need to repackage Butch as soon as possible. He really needs to just turn on Sheamus and become, the brutal Pete Dunne again. I did a pitch on the website saying that they should basically do the Brawling Brutes, but just have Tyler Bate replace Sheamus and call them the Bloody Bruiserweights. I think that'd be a very solid tag team name, and also, Bloody is, I mean,
WWE
technically,
wouldn't use bloody. Come on, you know that, Ben.
they might. They might,
No,
because if you use it in
no.
context, it's fine. And we're talking about the fact that we're only talking about, the fact that they inflict blood on their opponents, so it's fine. It's a perfectly fine word to use. If
The
you use it
fact
in
that they're
another
not
context,
going to,
maybe
though.
not. Yeah, maybe not. But I think maybe more realistic one is British Bruiserweights. But anyway, I digress, right? I think that's what they need to do. They need to repackage Butch, make him Pete Dunne again, and make him become the main eventer he deserves to be. And I think they really need to start building towards that now. Pretty Deadly, of course, it's a SmackDown debuts tonight. I cannot see them losing this match. So I think Pretty Deadly will get the win, and hopefully it starts to lead to the end of the Brawling Brutes. I just hope it's not going to result in, Butch turning on Holland and then Butch just going his own way as Butch. He needs to be repackaged as Pete Dunne, or if you want to slightly adjust the name, you can, but it cannot stay as Butch. But Shad, what do you think about this match, and who do you see winning?
You know who I'm going for, man. The Yes Boys. Pretty Deadly. I'm a super fan of them. I'm a Pretty Deadly mark. I think those dudes have like the total package for the main roster. They got charisma, they got humor, they got the looks, they got the in-ring ability. I think they're just made for the main roster. I think they did a lot on the NXT brand for the short time they were there on the new NXT brand. Obviously not the UK, but once they got onto American soil and they got in Orlando and did all of that over there, I think they killed it, and I think that fans are gonna love them. You can't. I think they're gonna win. I agree with you on the notion that Pete Dunne, free Pete Dunne. Let's get rid of the Butch character. I think him and Ridge Holland can eat the loss. They're not really doing much with them at the moment. They're just Sheamus's lackeys. And Sheamus took a loss last week. He didn't get pinned, but he took a loss last week. And I wouldn't mind if they did go through the process with Pete Dunne um, being a solo superstar again and breaking out of the Brawling Brutes, because I think it's not really doing anything. I feel like they're just a filler tag team, and like I said, they're just lackeys to Sheamus. So I got Pretty Deadly getting the win tonight. I think it's their debut match. You can't have them lose. Getting a win over them would be pretty good, and I think they're going to be one of those tag teams that will gradually get over with the fans. You get them some wins, and then you can get them in programs for the tag team title. I mean, a Pretty Deadly versus KO and Sami Zayn feud, you can sign me up for that any day of the week. I think all the humor between KO and Sammy and them could be just a good little short feud for them as tag team champs and helping them two get over being in a feud with them. So I got Pretty Deadly winning. I'm putting the rocket on Pretty Deadly too. Take them to the sky, man. Let's go.
That would be excellent. Now you're saying about Pretty Deadly versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I would love to see that.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a perfect feud for them once they're done with this bloodline situation, which we'll get into.
They were the one, like, if before, obviously, when the draft was happening, they were like the one of the main, like, people on NXT. I was like, they gotta move them up. There's no way that you keep them in the NXT brand. Like, you gotta bring them to the main roster. They have like the main roster look, everything to them. So I think they're gonna have a good transition on to SmackDown.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, WWE is sports entertainment, and
Mm-hmm.
they're certainly entertaining. So I think they'll have no problem fitting in on the main roster. I just hope that they're booked well, like in terms of they don't eat too many losses off the bat, because that is only one of the things of, I think, especially if Vince McMahon still had the book, I do slightly worry they're the type of tag team who would be like, oh, they can take as many losses as they need to. It's fine.
Yeah.
Hope it's not that situation, but we'll wait and find out. Hopefully it's not. And yeah, I'm going to be honest, I 100% see them beating the Brawling Brutes tonight. But I said earlier tonight on SmackDown, it's basically Tag Team Appreciation Night. And the next match is also a tag team match. And it is Rey Mysterio teaming up with Santos Escobar to take on the Usos. And this all came about because of a backstage segment last week on SmackDown. It basically kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, I believe as a team, the LWO, since forming, still haven't, or reforming, I should say, still haven't actually won a match. And I don't think they'll be winning this one tonight, because I think the Usos are going to take this victory. Because, of course, I do think the direction they're heading in is Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns versus the Usos at some point in the fairly near future. So, yeah, I'm predicting the Usos on this one. But, Coby, what do you think?
I think it's going the opposite way, and I mean, like this is coming from the position of, yes, Mysterio and Escobar aren't exactly the tag team of the LWO, because they have Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde, as they were the tag team of Legado in NXT. I think the Usos are going to eat a couple losses, because they're in this position to where they are going downhill, and they are going to be risen back up when the Roman and Sikoa are going to feud with the Usos at that point in time. I at the end of the day, I think the Usos can afford this loss. Rey and Escobar can't. And then if we go in the direction of, well, maybe they go in a feud with Pretty Deadly, maybe, because there's a lot of directions we could take this, but Santos Escobar can't take that many losses. He hasn't won a match, and I think the only match the LWO had won was the mixed tag with Rey and Zelina versus Dom and Dom and Mommy on the Puerto Rico on the San Juan SmackDown. I think that I'm pretty sure they won that match, and then the Bad Bunny thing happened at the end of the show. But it's a matter of, there's a lot of wins that, like, it's a Vinceism, if you want to call it that, of faces don't need wins. They're faces anyway. So, I mean, they do. I think the Usos can afford the loss here more than Rey and Escobar can.
Yeah, no, that does. I do understand that completely. And I mean, it's not like, who knows? We'll get into it in a minute about the Usos versus Reigns and Sikoa potentially happening. But if that is happening soon, I guess it likely, who knows? Maybe it will be for the titles. So if it's not going to be for the titles, then yeah, I have no issue with Mysterio and Escobar getting the win. But if the titles are involved in any way, shape, or form, the Usos have to win today, because I'm completely sick, to be honest, of anybody getting a title shot if you've just lost tons of matches. But it'll be an interesting one tonight on SmackDown for sure. But you do bring a good point, and that's the LWO can't really take many more losses right now, because it's just loss after loss after loss since forming. And I think it's not a tag team which, a group which they need to split up quickly. I think they should keep this going for quite some time and really build it, because they're moving a lot of merch. And I honestly think that, Santos Escobar and them, they're being elevated on the same stage as Rey Mysterio. So splitting them up, to me, doesn't make too much sense. But now let's move on to the next topic. And that, of course, is the big segment being promoted for SmackDown tonight. And believe it or not, Roman Reigns is showing up. He's showing up for work today, and alongside him will be Solo.
I wish I had his work schedule.
Me too. But he's turning up tonight, and they're coming face to face with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And I mean, this is an interesting one, really. I mean, they announced it out of nowhere last week. I don't know how I feel about it. I kind of thought, and I still kind of do think, that after Mania, Owens and Zayn should have just been done with the bloodline, and they should have just moved away from that storyline, because since then, I mean, the rematch with the Usos, I mean, you were never going to top the Mania match. I don't think there was a reason for it to really happen. I mean, yes, okay, rematch clause, whatever, but 1 minute they're saying rematch clauses don't exist in WWE. The next minute they do again. It's slightly confusing. And to be honest with you, I just don't think it was necessary. But I mean, will Reigns and Solo win against Owens and Zayn? I don't think so, because I mean that would mean more matches for Roman Reigns, and I don't really see that happening. So I am presuming that Reigns and Solo are going to lose, and I also do think the Usos are going to turn on Reigns and Solo, leading to maybe a time match of Money in the Bank or SummerSlam. Again, that's also not great because Roman Reigns does need to defend, the main title in the company at some point. So I'm not a fan of this, to be honest. I think if this was the direction you were going with Bloodline, I'm not going to lie. If this was the direction you're going with the Bloodline, splitting them up like this, I think Cody should have won at Mania. Or, somebody should have won the title, whether or not it was Sammy or whatever. Somebody should have won the title at Mania. Because I said at Mania, the Bloodline all should lose their matches, and the Bloodline should just crumble from there, and then you lead to Reigns and Solo versus the Usos, and then eventually Solo joining the Usos, and you doing Solo versus Roman maybe at next year's Mania, and you just build that throughout the year. None of those matches need the title to feel special. None of them do. And now you've got a situation where Roman Reigns is the champion, and yet he's not defending the belt because he's doing this storyline. And yes, this storyline is great and all that, but at the same time, just give the belt to somebody else so they can help elevate it. I'm not a fan of it. But Shad, I'll go to you first. What's your thoughts on all of this?
I'm not a big fan of it either. I understand the monster that they did create of Roman Reigns is one that's difficult to book because he's become so much of a super person that for the longest time, it was hard to see who could take the title off of him. And then, yeah, like you mentioned, there was two opportunities there. There was the match with Sammy in Montreal, perfect opportunity to get the belt off of him. It didn't happen. Obviously, you had the Cody opportunity. That didn't happen as well. So in my opinion, in regards to this feud, the only way, and I don't know if it's gonna happen, but the only way that I could possibly see that it would become a bit like, okay, I like it, is at Saudi tag team match, Sammy and KO retain, Sammy gets the pin over Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
That is the only way that you're going to really make me be invested into this match. Other than that, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think it's become kind of tiresome, boring in a way that we've seen Sammy and KO involved with the bloodline. It's just repeat, and I really don't want I don't want Roman and Solo to get the tag titles for that reason. We don't see Roman often. I mean, he's here once in a blue moon. He's here once, two SmackDowns in a whole cycle going into a pay-per-view. He's not even here for all the pay-per-views and whatnot. I think KO and Sammy created a great moment, and that rematch, same thing, rinse and repeat. This match, it's not the same team, but it's the same bloodline, rinse and repeat. I'm not invested into it personally. I understand that these shows in Saudi are a little different. I know they like a lot of star power for the crowd, which I understand. But yeah, you gotta let Sammy and KO retain, and you gotta let them have. There's so many talented tag teams. You gotta let them have a good tag team run and whatnot. So I'm like I said, I'm hoping for Sammy pinning Roman in Saudi. That would be. You didn't give him the moment in Montreal. Let him get a moment in front of all his, him being a Muslim in the Middle East and whatnot. Let him get that moment over there. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only issue I would have with that is call me traditional or whatever, but I think if you pin the champion, you should at very least get a championship match, and then you continue in the story over and over and over again.
That's true.
I don't know. I'm not, which is why I think Solo will take the pin, but then it's all just a complete and utter mess.
And then Solo hasn't been eating pins too, so it's difficult, right?
It's stupid. I don't like it. Why did they do it? It's unnecessarily putting them in a bad situation. But before I go on a rant, Coby, what do you think about it all? And do you think any differently, really?
The one thing I can say is the entire Bloodline storyline is enrooted in Roman Reigns being the top. He's the tribal chief. this is the thing is like we have Roman saying on the Mania press conference, we're in inning 3. For those who aren't baseball fans, inning 3 is like a third of the way through. If you're using the typical 9-inning game, or 7's more or less, but like in the MLB uses 9. So he's saying we are a third of the way through, and it's like, okay, well, how much further can we go? I understand the fact that this is in a position where we're trying to tell a story, but my fear, and this is becoming kind of a regular occurrence on these shows, my current fear is that the Universal Champ or the WWE or the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, I think that's what they call it, is becoming too much of a prop. Of this is on Roman Reigns because he's the biggest star in the company. He's the one who makes the money. He's the one who draws the crowds. He's the face of the company. It is a prop right now, and it's a matter of they're in a feud. I like the fact that they're doing something different. I do, but it's a matter of where do you go? Like, it's obvious they're not going to put the titles on Roman. I think it is as much obvious as that. And like I said last week on Saturday, look at what Roman said. He's dedicating the match to the elders. That's going to be a very key note in this story. And I agree that this is a good story to tell. But the fact of the matter is those world titles are becoming props for Roman Reigns. And that's the biggest fear that comes out of this. But I like the match itself.
Yeah.
I'm interested in it. I think it should deliver. The only thing I say is there's no way that's not the main event now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which
I don't know.
It has to be the main event. It's Roman Reigns.
Unless you make the world title, right?
Yeah, I think
the world title should main event. The world title should, but it's Roman Reigns. So Roman Reigns is main eventing.
I think that's the reason. I think that's the reason why they're doing the tag team titles on this pay-per-view, not the actual Universal title. I think that is because if it was the Universal title, they'd feel it'd have to main event. But because it's a tag team, they're not going to have it main eventing. I think that's the reason for it.
I think put it this way: the World Heavyweight should.
Yeah,
I don't think it is.
It's man, Roman Bad Bunny and Damian Priest should have main evented, but Cody and Brock did. So.
The only thing that comes to mind is maybe contractually it was originally negotiated that Cody and Brock was going to main event, and then because I don't think I think it was on the decision call that they went with Bad Bunny in a solo position, which the money was one of the best matches of the year.
Yeah,
whether we like it or not. But I think it could have been like a contractual thing where they they originally were going to go with Cody Brock main eventing, and then they didn't. At the time, they didn't have in paper Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest. They had whatever tag match that they were kind of going in that direction.
To me, it's just situational awareness, though. I feel like
it is.
Obviously I'm a music junkie and I'm a big Bad Bunny fan. That guy is like a superstar, yo. Like, you don't if you had to compare and contrast, that's like, I don't think he's as big as him, but that's like, you never seen like back in the 80s when like Michael Jackson having a match in a pay-per-view. Like, this dude's like a Grammy award winning music artist, and obviously it's in a different, it's not like American like music or whatnot, and people were not used to it or whatnot, but it's like a guy and you're doing it in his home country. I don't know. I feel like situational awareness on their behalf should have been like, we should have closed the show with this match. But
no, I honestly, I do think as well, one of the things with Bad Bunny was he's actually like not known like at all, like not known in a lot of the countries where WWE is very successful as well. Like in the UK, it's like doesn't exist. Like there's no, he's not even in the charts. It's like not like he's not as popular. He like isn't known, which I don't know. It kind of shocked me, to be honest with you, about like how like different it is. over in the United States, because a lot of times, there's similar music artists there, but his fan base is very clearly, they absolutely love him, and you saw the views which he did for WWE were unbelievable, amazing. But yeah, I think it all comes back with, I don't think this storyline needs the Universal Championship, because you very easily could have had Roman lose to Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then have Usos have their rematch against Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens at Backlash, where Roman Reigns doesn't appear, which he didn't anyway. Then Roman Reigns does his exact same thing, where he's like, well, now you didn't, I'm going to go for it. And, he beat Sami Zayn a couple months ago. So, I mean, technically speaking, he beat the champion before he was a champion, but whatever. It would make a little bit of sense. As much sense as this does anyway. And then you do Reigns and Solo versus Sami and Kevin at this show. It makes just as much sense. Right. And at least the Universal title isn't being, I wouldn't say tainted, but it's just, at least it's not being forgotten about. So I don't understand. In hindsight, the more and more I think about it, I don't understand why Roman Reigns is still champion. Because at the time, I was like, yeah, okay, they've clearly got a lot of stuff for him to do. They want to develop the Cody storyline more. I understand why they've had Roman win. Now, well, clearly they don't have anything for him until, the future. So I don't know. It annoys me.
It's a matter of, I don't know if it came across with what I just said, but I think it's the fact of the matter is yes, it's almost becoming a prop, but it's so ingrained in the character. Roman Reigns isn't the tribal chief unless he has that title. Right. That's why he has to have it. He has to be the one that in storyline, in kayfabe, like Heyman says, they're the top champions. He's the tribal chief. He has the pull. If he doesn't have the titles, if he's a facade of a tribal chief, not as the champion, the character's in that position where it's like,
But if the Usos do turn on him, then maybe it would make more sense if he wasn't the champion anymore. And that's kind of like, well, they turned on him once he lost the title, and it kind of exposes him and makes the bloodline, kind of crumble a bit. And maybe Solo hangs on for a little bit with Roman, and then eventually joins his brothers. But
I feel like that's where the story has to end, right? I feel like the story gained a lot of steam once he had that feud with Jay, and they had that very emotional match at Hell in the Cell when Jimmy came back. I feel like the story has to end with him, as strong as he is and whatnot. It has to end with his family overpassing him, whether it be the Usos and Solo, all getting past him and whatnot. But it's become one of those moments where I feel like you can still tell the story of Roman versus his family without him having gold too. It's like one of those moments where you're just for the longest time, like I mentioned earlier, you're waiting who can get the title off of Roman, and now we're back at it again, and we're like, who's gonna get it off him? And if it ends up being Cody, you're just like, well, why couldn't you just do it at Mania at that time or whatnot? So it's I don't know. In my opinion, I feel like it's becoming, with him as champion, it's become a little bit sour because it's we're 2 years into some change now. If we're really letting him hold the title so he can get 1,000 days, I don't know.
He's going.
I mean, that's another thing as well.
Yeah.
The 1,000th day is at Night of Champions. So why isn't he defending at Night of Champions? It annoys me. It really, really does. But this basically brings us to the end of the show. Thank you guys for watching. If you're on YouTube, please leave a like and comment and subscribe if you haven't already. Please share it with your friends as well. If you're over on Spotify, please leave 5 stars and a cheeky follow. Those really do help us out. As I say every day, we're here every day. We'll be back here the same time again tomorrow. I think Anthony is going to be back on the show tomorrow. So it's going to be me, Coby, and Anthony. And then on Sunday, here's the announcement for Sunday show. We're going to be doing a double or nothing quiz as part of our Sunday Fun Day for it. So we've got all of that and more coming back. But yeah, we'll be back here We'll be back here tomorrow, same time, 8 p.m. UK, 3 p.m. Eastern, and 12 p.m. Pacific. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you, Shad, for an amazing first show, and thank you, Coby, for
Appreciate
joining
you guys,
as well.
man.
And we will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.